Meet Network and meet security. Network provides the connectivity to help drive their company forward, while security keeps networks safe from threats. One needs the other and vice versa. But it's not always as simple as that, especially now, with more people and devices connecting to cloud applications from literally everywhere. By moving security and network into the cloud and delivering them as one service with identity layered in. This new approach is called Secure Access Service Edge, or SASSY, and the partner to get you there is Cisco. We've got the foundation, the experience, and a SASSY approach that we like to call the 3 C's: connect, control, and converge. Let's start with connect. We help you deliver a seamless connection between users and applications in any environment from any location, quickly, simply, and at scale. You'll be able to control with confidence, with simplified security and increased efficacy, because multiple functions are now combined into a single cloud-native service. And finally, we help you bring it all together. With Cisco, you can converge security and networking through a flexible, integrated approach that meets multi-cloud demands at scale and grows with you. So while you're remembering the 3 C's of SASSY, don't forget the 4th C, Cisco. We not only built the network and are now modernizing it with SD-WAN, we're also a trusted world leader in network security. So convergence of the two is in our DNA. And at Cisco, we understand that migration to the cloud is a journey, not a sprint, and everyone is at a different point on their own individual path. No matter your current configuration and set of security solutions, we'll work with you to help you realize SASSY your way, so that network and security can work together to productively, efficiently, and securely move the company forward. Go to cisco.com/go/SASSY to learn more.
Hello and good afternoon, everyone. We hope you had a good lunch break. A very warm welcome to all of you for today's live webinar. We are from the Star Events Unit, and this webinar is brought to you by Star Media Group in partnership with Cisco. Whether you're currently in WebEx, Facebook, YouTube, or LinkedIn, thank you very much for joining us at this webinar. Well, how are you? We'd love to hear from you. Chat with us, let us know your thoughts, type in the chat box or in the comment section. I'm very grateful that I'm able to be here today at this timely virtual gathering to talk about a very sassy topic. In the office today, are you still practicing the hybrid work arrangement? As the world slowly replaces face-to-face business with online interactions, this means organizations have to support their hybrid workforce with the required tools to ensure business continuity. According to O'Reilly's Cloud Adoption in 2020 report, 88% of organizations were already using cloud infrastructure even before the pandemic. However, the risk of malware and exploitation may vary for every organization, as the degree of maturity levels in the cloud transformation journey for each organization differs. So how can organizations enhance their cloud security to support seamless remote access without affecting productivity? 2 years ago, SASSY, spelled as SASE, or Secure Access Service Edge, is based on cloud-native capabilities that simplify the IT environment while improving security and enabling dynamic scalability. At this webinar, you will learn how you could enhance your organization's cloud security to support seamless remote access without affecting employees' productivity. Cisco's approach to SASSY combines leading networks with security functionality into an integrated architecture to help secure access wherever users and applications reside. All right, I hope you are as excited and eager as I am to learn more about exactly what does SASSY entail. But before we begin, allow me to share a few quick reminders. Please be patient if you experience any technical or internet glitches during the webinar. If the session is disconnected abruptly at any point, please hang on tight. The show must go on, and we will definitely be right back in just a short while. If you need any assistance from us, please chat with us, or you could even email us at events@thestar.com.my. If you have any questions for our speaker on your organizational challenges or business concerns, please post it in the chat box or in the comment section. Our speaker will address them at the end of the session. Be assured that we will keep this webinar to an hour. The session will be very short and simple, but we promise it will be very precise and valuable for each and every one of you. Guys, I have exciting news to share with you. Please stay with us till the end of the webinar to complete a short survey, and you will stand a chance to win 1,000 ringgit worth of H2O humidifiers and GrabFood vouchers. So please do stay with us till the end, and we will be sharing the access for you to complete the short survey. Now let's bring on our speaker for the webinar. Jeff is a regional security specialist from Cisco that is responsible for evangelizing solutions around cloud. Jeff also has over 13 years of regional experience in Asia Pacific, Japan, and China, driving technology and operational excellence for the security, cloud, and software portfolio. Before I hand over the floor to Jeff, just a gentle reminder that if you have any questions for Jeff, please post it in the chat box or the comment section. Jeff will address your questions at the end of the session. All right, Jeff, whenever you're ready, the floor is yours. And guys, please enjoy.
Thank you, and a very good afternoon session. So today we are going to talk about how we are going to embark on this SASSY journey. Now, 42% of organizations in Asia Pac use cloud as a platform to digitize themselves, digitize the business. And this is a report done by IDC back in 2020. And this was due to the COVID-19 impact survey. So as we think about embarking on this journey, there are risks associated with going digital. So if you have been reading the news globally, there are a lot of spam happening, a lot of attacks to our end users happening. However, this innovation has enabled a lot of businesses, in large enterprises to actually change the way they engage with the end users and the consumers. So how do we actually embark on a very safe and secure journey to move towards the cloud? So let's talk a bit about today's agenda. So we are going to explore SASSY, what exactly it is. We are going to explore on the use cases. How does that reflect onto the remote workforce? And how does that also help us to secure the networking remote age? Now, we will also explore why SASSY is a journey and not a one-stop solution. And we'll see a bit of demo to actually see it live in action. So let's talk a bit about the benefits and risks of migrating to the cloud. First of all, it kind of saves time and money for you in terms of resources. Traditionally, you would have to buy a data center, you have to buy the equipment, you have to procure all the power racking, stacking, you have to get real estate. Then you have to get a group of people to actually manage this. And that will actually empower organizations to optimize their cloud workloads in a way that it requires fewer resources to run. Why? Today, I could use my credit card, put in the details into a web portal, and get Office 365 in a snap. So this actually saves the provisioning process. It saves a lot of infrastructure that traditional companies would have to pay for. That flexibility is actually a very great benefit because you only pay for what you consume. If a new user joins the organization, you would pay for that one user. If he leaves tomorrow, you just stop the subscription. So that will actually enable you to scale in a very, very reasonable manner without actually increasing the cost to business. So built-in backup and recovery capabilities. So we all access applications and data on a daily basis. But what happens if there is a disaster? Right? Traditionally, we would have to move all our assets to another data center before we can continue our business. Today, with the cloud having high availability across many different zones and countries, data is replicated in real time. It means that even if you lose transactions, it will be in a matter of minutes or seconds before you are recovered. So that actually helps business stay afloat on a longer term basis. And we also have cloud service providers. So this actually provides a centralized management tool. So organizations can easily manage and monitor their cloud resources really easily, and they can manage both on-prem and in hybrid environments in a very seamless fashion. Specific offerings designed to help small businesses as well as large enterprises meet with compliance. So today, when we are selling products, when we are taking care of customer data, when we have credit card information, what kind of regulations does the government impose on us? So the cloud actually helps to take care and encapsulate such complexities while the business owner still hold on to the responsibility. And the most important part of it is to keep the data from customers safe and secure. So as we embark on this cloud disruption process, we actually see a lot of it coming from Microsoft, from Google, from AWS, right? As they actually propagate their services, we realize more and more companies from small enterprises, from large enterprises to small companies, they are actually getting on this disruption curve. And it's a good way of disrupting the market. Why is it so? Instead of having a very, very long process to get my business up and running, I could deploy an application in AWS in a matter of weeks instead of months, right? And we are able to actually protect against evolving threats because inbuilt within the clouds is a high level of security, and we do have the technical capabilities to ensure compliance. While it is challenging versus the traditional way of how networks are architected, the security in application access is delivered in a very seamless fashion. Today, we consume apps and data from our mobile phones, from our laptops, and the approach really needs to change. So that's where SASSY came along, Secure Access Services Edge. Essentially, it is about combining both networking and security functions in the cloud to deliver secure access to applications anywhere that users are working from. Traditionally, you would have two teams of people, the network people and the security people. Sometimes they fight against each other because The network people just want everything to function so that you have high availability. The security people wanted to have control so that you are kept secure and safe. So when the two merges together, right, we actually are able to deliver connectivity, security as a service, both to internal as well as to our external folks. So that will actually help users seamlessly connect to the apps and data that they need without having too much problems. So this also focuses the right level of security protection, regardless of where the users are actually connecting in from. So you might be wondering, so what does this mean to my organization and how does that actually support remote working? So we know that in Malaysia, MCO can affect businesses greatly based on past historical data. So we are actually moving towards an environment where we actually have hybrid work, right? So in that hybrid work environment, we actually see the ability to have cloud-native security suites of solution. So there are a lot of data and features on that slide there, right? But what I wanted to actually point out is these solutions are delivered cloud natively. Where else traditionally you would have to buy a server and appliance, put it in your data center. So today we can actually do things like threat intelligence, right? We actually understand where users are connecting in from, what kind of applications they are accessing, and if they are actually accessing an application, we want to challenge them in terms of identifying themselves so that they are not actually bad actors trying to access the important core application and data. We are also looking at the delivery of this wide area network to all the users, whether you're working from a branch, from the campus, or from a remote site. And this is all powered by things like the Tela or Cisco Meraki, where remote connectivity is actually built into a core cloud service. On the control side, we are really looking at delivering security protection, where cloud security, together with Umbrella, pulls together many security functions, including things like a secure web gateway. We are also doing things like a CASB, where you can actually prevent data loss directly from the cloud. So how would you know if your users are uploading a bunch of sensitive information into Google and they're actually extracting that information out into their personal laptops? So these are things that we are actually tackling. And finally, we need to look at zero trust. So zero trust is a concept where we do not trust the users and the person accessing by default. We will need to challenge them, right? So how do we actually challenge them? We actually do multi-factor authentication. Would I need to scan my face or my fingerprint before I connect into Office 365? And is my endpoint healthy? So these are the questions that we tackle based on the zero trust framework. So traditionally, networking comes in many different flavors. So this might be some of the traditional architecture that we actually see. We see remote branch sites, right? Small offices where we have 5 to 10 kind of users working remotely. We have the core campus where all your critical applications, your database servers are actually hosted. And you actually have links to each of these remote sites. So many of these distributed architectures actually have their own challenges. Because you also have people working remotely, you will need VPN. So all the traffic is tunneled from a remote location back to the campus core. People who are at the remote sites, they are also tunneling all the traffic back to the campus core. So this might end up having a bottleneck in terms of network performance. You might experience slowness. And in the traditional environment, everything had to be through VPN before you could access apps and data sitting there. So with the rise of multi-cloud, with more and more applications moving to a cloud-based model, you consume it as a software as a service. So things like Salesforce, Office 365. So this architecture did not really sit well with a distributed cloud requirement. So as you look at performance, the idea is to actually move towards scalability, to provide better productivity, better connectivity for our end users connecting into these apps and data. Regardless of whether they're using a mobile app or browser, the right people should be able to get to the application in a very seamless fashion. So that's where the traditional architecture moves towards distributed, right? We actually look at how we actually have direct connection from the branch site to the cloud. And the problem with such architectures is this: if your users are using your branch network and they're connecting directly to the cloud, how would you have visibility? If you do not have visibility on what your users are connecting to, what apps they're using, what kind of data they're transmitting to the cloud, you have no technical control from a security perspective. And that will cause compliance issues, they will cause data loss issues, and put the organization at risk. So this is something that we definitely have to manage. So when we are actually managing this, these are the challenges that we actually see, right? Phishing attacks on users' identity. So today we actually know that it's very easy to get a username and password from a user. The user reuses that password across many different applications. We see bottlenecks in terms of network connectivity. We see issues of security management having different pockets of different levels of security. So sometimes your campus security policy is better than your branch sites, but your branch sites might have critical data as well. So how do you actually manage that disparity between your security policies? So these are things that traditional IT have a big problem dealing with, right? So phishing attacks is something that we want to actually deal against. So definitely we want to identify who the users are and where they're connecting in from. We need that visibility. So security incidents are also caused by outdated browsers, outdated operating systems. So are these systems actually patched, and are they actually compliant with our internal security policies? So this you might equate to the traditional network access control. So traditional network access control is everything in your data center. But as we move to the cloud, that is difficult to enforce. So moving towards a SASSY model, right? So this is where we converge everything together, networking and security, end-to-end observability of all the users from their applications, from any network, from any cloud. We connect and secure access to applications, data, and the internet for remote workers, fixed locations, any sort of workload, IoT, or internet-facing devices. Now, we also optimize performance to ensure fastest and most reliable, secure path to the cloud. And we actually adopt a zero trust framework. So what that means is we verify if the devices are healthy. We challenge all the users every single time that they connect to an app. And this is on a per session basis. And we can quickly pinpoint any kind of network performance issue, if there's a lag, if there's a DNS issue, all of that has visibility to IT, and we can actually deal with that problem in a very seamless fashion. So that will actually mean that you have predictable performance, we have intelligence, and it's consumed as a model in terms of the cloud. So that makes the life of IT a lot easier. And it also helps the business become more agile by leveraging cloud security and cloud deployment. So as we actually look at this, right, we actually have unified policies, we actually have better productivity for our end users, and all our networks are protected regardless of where users are connecting in from. So this is actually a diagram provided by Gartner, right? So Gartner has actually called out a few core features in terms of adopting a SASSY service framework. So if you actually look at it, right, so this was coined by Gartner back in 2019, and it speaks about how we actually built a secure workload. We actually built on technologies such as a full web proxy. We actually look at CASB, where we can actually prevent data loss prevention, network access control, and all of these are in a centralized platform. It's merged together, it's cloud delivered, and fundamentally, you might actually embark on this journey with a few of these solutions, right? So SASSY is not a one-stop fits all. If you look at the different vendors out in the market, they will provide different capabilities based on what you see here. So you might start from a small feature and you might grow into a full set of SASSY security framework. So that is a journey that we are actually embarking on. So as we move forward, let's take a look at the primary use cases. So what do we exactly use SASSY for? So the major use cases when we actually look at this is for secure remote workers, right? So secure remote workers, most of us are actually remote workers now. I myself, I started my job at home, right? I have been to the office probably 4 times in the last a year and a half. So one of the important pieces when we are actually looking at remote workers is authentication. How are they connecting back into our infrastructure to consume the apps and data? And the second major use case is the services edge, right? How do we actually make it secure? How are you actually connecting into different locations, whether your application servers are at the branch site, at the data center, at the campus, or is it in the core? So that connectivity on how we actually provision it to the users. For example, if I have a wireless access point, I could actually provision it remotely, right? Just by sitting at home. So that's the power of cloud provisioning. And that's also available in our solutions such as Meraki and Vectella. So we are actually able to streamline connectivity to thousands of apps in different locations. And this actually is our SD-WAN secure fabric. And it actually spans across all the users and location. So these are the major use cases that we actually see. So how about a complete solution for remote access? So you see on screen that you have a user, you have a laptop. So some users, they are connecting directly to things like Office 365 or Box or any kind of SaaS-based services. So in a SASSY kind of model, we actually have a single sign-on solution. So that is belonging to Cisco Duo. So Duo is a cloud-based model. We can actually do single sign-on. So meaning users would be able to authenticate once to a cloud portal. From there, they will be able to basically access any kind of cloud-based applications while ensuring that they are who they say they are through multi-factor authentication. We also ensure that the endpoint is checked. So do you have a firewall turned on? Do you have the updated browsers? Do you have the updated operating systems? Also, we actually see on the diagram, you see an umbrella diagram in the center, and that is actually doing a secure access to cloud-based applications as well. So traditional VPN, you would have a VPN client on your endpoint. It's connecting to a backhaul VPN gateway, and that enables you to connect to your data center where your application resides. So in the new model, we would have direct connectivity to the umbrella cloud. And what does this do for our end users? It means that we are able to layer on security, things like a secure browser isolation. What is secure browser isolation? So today we know that there are many masquerading websites with a lot of malicious code running on it. So we can actually isolate browsers for the end users to ensure that the users are kept safe when they are browsing online. We can also provide a remote access through our umbrella infrastructure so that the users can tunnel directly from our cloud infrastructure together with umbrella. We can also proxy this access to the backhaul VPN. So that actually allows the company to slowly migrate from a on-prem infrastructure to a hybrid infrastructure. And finally, if they are looking at a full cloud infrastructure, that would be a good transit point. However, when we are actually connecting to any of these resources, regardless of whether they're on-prem or in the cloud, we want to ensure identity is managed. So this is where you actually see that prompt on screen. So that is provided by Duo multi-factor authentication. And we layer on the second layer of the Zero Trust framework, which is your device trusted? So this is a screenshot of something called the device health app. So that device health app, that little agent on your endpoint checks if you have a firewall installed, if you have an anti-malware installed, and that ensures that IT can meet with compliance, meet with the Zero Trust framework. So that is how we actually lay everything out on a flat logical diagram. So you heard earlier in the video, right? Cisco takes care of the 3 C's: connect, control, and converge. So this is how we'll actually plan it out for a secure remote worker. Multi-factor authentication whenever they connect to a VPN or directly to the cloud, single sign-on ability for any cloud-based applications. We also have a VPN-less solution. What does VPN-less solution mean? Meaning users can connect to apps and data without doing a VPN. That sounds quite wonderful, and I'll show you how that works in a little demo later on, right? But for everything else, if it's in the data center itself, right? So you might actually do another authentication before you actually get to your web application. So that's where we have different layers of checks in between to ensure that users are actually always secured. So as we move on, we actually take a look at the DNS layer. So domain name service, right? So this is where a lot of attacks actually happen. So every time you type google.com, it actually maps to an IP address. But did you also know that this service, whether it's deployed internally or externally, has a lot of attacks? So with our umbrella service, so we can actually get on this service really, really quickly by pointing all our DNS service directly to umbrella. So this actually remains one of the big differentiators when you are doing SASSY. So what happens is we actually get enterprise-wide security. We have security controls such as our web gateway, our cloud-delivered firewalls. We can also protect all of these in minutes, all sort of devices from your Windows to your Macs, and also your servers, right? So we actually do this through a recursive DNS service, which actually looks up the IP address, and we actually enforce security and block domains associated with malware, phishing, or command and control callbacks. What it means for the end user is anytime you are surfing the internet, you are safe and secure. It is seamless to you. You don't even know that it's running in the background. Fantastic for an end user. So as we actually embark on this journey, we are also seeing a lot of trends in terms of people masquerading as unwanted sites, right? You might also experience that there are certain websites that you want to block, things like gambling sites or inappropriate sites with adult content. So you can also configure this directly on Umbrella to ensure that users are actually protected. So in terms of our Umbrella Secure Web Gateway, or SIG, so this actually enables your web traffic to be routed to Umbrella. So we can actually provide URL reporting, and we can actually understand the usage patterns of users. So what this enables IT to do is we actually provide risk profiles, and we're actually able to block specific app categories or specific applications. So this would actually improve things like your ability to do anti-malware scanning, as well as to actually have sandbox capabilities, right? So we actually reduce the spread of anti-malware in your environment. You gain application visibility, you have controls, and it is also API open, meaning you can actually use APIs to actually automate certain tasks in this manner. So I talked a bit about browser isolation earlier, right? So this will actually enable our end users to be able to surf to different websites and yet still be very, very secure, because the browser is where we work today. Today, we actually access all our, maybe a webmail or our HR applications, everything from a web browser. So this would actually enable a differentiation in terms of our real websites and malicious websites with code that we might want to block from our users. This is also very, very scalable, right? We can actually deliver this on demand to all kinds of devices, including your operating systems on Mac or on a Android system. So this is definitely something that I will encourage everyone to actually look into. Over here, you actually see a screenshot of certain policies that we can actually enforce. So you can actually see that we can actually warn the users, we can actually block the users, or we can just isolate the users from that particular web browser itself. The policies are actually very powerful and something that you can actually look into. So I mentioned a bit about clientless remote access earlier. So what exactly is this, right? Remember, traditionally, when you need to connect to an application in your data center, a HR application, your Leaf application, you need to do a VPN. So in Duo, we actually have something called the Duo Network Gateway, and this acts as reverse proxy. For the end user, it just means that I use a web browser, browse to a URL, and I am able to access my web application. It doesn't mean that I would know where the application is. It can be on the cloud, it can be in the data center. It's seamless to the end user, and they do not even have to perform a VPN. So how do we ensure identity access is secure? So we actually do multi-factor authentication. We can also do the health checks on the endpoints, and that will ensure that all the users connecting in are secure, and all the traffic is actually encrypted over 443. So you can be ensured that all the traffic being transmitted over the internet is also something that is safe and secure. Now, we can also prevent unwanted access into your VPNs or other systems through something called trusted endpoints. So how do we actually verify trusted endpoints? So we actually use things like whether a device is domain joined, whether a device has been enrolled in MDM. So when we actually have visibility we can actually ensure that BYOD devices have no access into our core infrastructure, or even if users want to actually use their own devices to connect into such systems, they are actually prevented. Only authorized devices get to connect into the core infrastructure. So the posture check is actually a very important part of this scenario for the Zero Trust framework. So you see on the screen that it's also available on your mobile device. So yes, we can check if the user's device is rooted or jailbroken, or does it have a passcode. So if you do not have this security enabled on your endpoint devices, essentially your access would be blocked. And yes, it's applicable to cloud-based systems. So yes, you have seen that the network access control that you see traditionally in your data center, it is now available in the cloud as well. Some interesting user policies that we can actually see. We can detect where the users are from, geolocation. So what does this mean for a business? If my business does not extend out of Malaysia and I'm connecting in from China, I can block that access and reduce my attack surface area based on user policies. So I know where users are connecting in from. I can have granular technical controls around it. For device-based policies, we can actually detect if a users are using corporate issued devices, if they have biometrics enabled on the endpoints, and we can also detect if the operating systems and the browsers are actually up to date. And all these happen without an agent. Yes, you heard me right. Without an agent, we can actually detect this, and we can actually ask the users to remediate if they are non-compliant with those security controls. So putting it all together, right, the endpoint security components that we'll need in a SASSY framework, you'll need things like an umbrella. So this will actually provide you with secure web gateways. We can actually do CASB features. We can do browser-based isolations, and we can also do DNS security. In terms of user identity, device trust, we have Duo. So that will actually ensure that users are who they say they are when they're connecting in, devices are trusted by IT, and we actually have better user experience with clientless remote access. Similarly, visibility is important. So we have things like our secure endpoint where we can do remediation and isolation. We can actually block anti-malware. And we have also Thousand Eyes. So Thousand Eyes provide us with visibility across the entire networking fabric so that we can isolate and identify problems in a very quick and positive fashion. So at the end of the day, we want positive business outcomes and good technical outcomes as well. So what can we actually achieve when we deploy such an architecture? From a user perspective, first of all, MFA will prevent fraudulent logins, right? Credentials are entered, a second factor is used to verify users who say who they say they are, and this might be through biometrics. So bad actors with stolen credentials will be kept out of the way. Self-service enrollment. So users can enroll themselves into the solution without the intervention of IT. So that takes the workload of IT. And some users, they buy the newest iPhone every year. So that can actually be a very, very good way for users to self-service manage their devices. We give flexibility in terms of devices, right? Users can use an iOS, they can use an Android, they can use a tablet. All of that are actually available to the users on their own devices that they can actually perform multi-factor authentication. From these devices, they are connecting into cloud-based applications. So we have a single sign-on platform, the Duo SSO. So that would mean that the users would need to remember one password, multi-factor authentication happens, and they are able to sign in into all the applications without the hassle of remembering multiple passwords. That means reduction in password resets, reduction in potential password compromise. And we also have something interesting called Trust Monitor. So what exactly is it? So we are able to actually take user behavior analytics. We put it in the cloud service, and we are actually able to understand the baseline for the users. Is Jeff coming in at 9 a.m. every day? Is he working from Singapore or is he working from China? We built a profile for the user, and if the user deviates from this baseline, we will essentially inform the administrator so that they can actually do additional investigation. Let's take a look at the device perspective. How can we actually benefit from such an architecture? Device health checks, right? Browsers are up to date, operating systems are up to date, they are screen locked, they have an anti-malware. So IT can ensure compliance on the endpoint systems. And we can also manage this directly from the cloud, which makes things really, really simple and easy for the end user. And we also have device health checks. Whenever these devices are connecting in, if it's an unauthorized device, we will essentially block this device. If the firewall is turned off, self-service remediation happens. Or if something greater happens, we provide a FAQ, an email, a phone number so that the users can contact our help desk to remediate the problem really quickly. Finally, we actually have trusted endpoints. So this is a concept where endpoints are issued by IT alone. If you are bringing a BYOD device, that BYOD device is not able to access the system at all, right? So that is how we can actually form a very, very concrete security framework to ensure that only trusted devices are connecting into our core infrastructure. And from the application perspective, right, most of our users are connecting into apps on a daily basis. So single sign-on helps with the identity federation, regardless of whichever location you're connecting in from. Traditional on-prem VPN, they will still be around for a long time because we have legacy applications. However, it can coexist with a VPN-less architecture, which is our dual network gateway. So the users would just have to browse directly to the application itself. They don't have to perform a VPN. We are actually managing risks. How is that so? Users are isolated to a specific resource. They do not have access to everything in a VPN tunnel. So if the endpoint is infected, you will not have a very wide malware spread. You will not have lateral movement because of the isolation performed by the dual network gateway. And finally, our access policies can be customized on a per app basis so that you have granular control. You can step up and step down depending on the risk level of the users and the location they're connecting in from. We also have something called Duo Central. So this is a single pane of glass where users can access all their apps and data on a daily basis. So remember, users usually like to do a lot of bookmarks, and that is a hassle for the users, right? And we can actually just put everything in a single pane of glass. They do a one-click access, fantastic end user experience for the corporate. And the adaptive policy that actually enable us to control all these applications on a granular basis, and we wrap it all around a seamless access with our dual networking. So Cisco is also very understanding about the circumstances for our customers. So we actually know that there are many different endpoint clients today installed on your Windows system, on your Mac systems. So we are working on a consolidated secure client, right? We will have Duo, we will have AnyConnect, we will have Umbrella and Endpoint, everything merged into one so that one client can actually manage multiple security systems on that endpoint itself. So this will actually provide better end user experience, consume less resources on the endpoint itself, something to definitely look forward to. So as I mentioned earlier, SASSY is a journey, right? It's not a single solution. It's not a silver bullet that I can buy one solution and tomorrow I'm done. And that is also why we actually have a secure platform with many, many different services put together. You may start just from the user authentication piece. You might start from an SD-WAN perspective, but at the core fundamentals, we should look at converging the two. And you might be surprised, right? A lot of people have this perception that Cisco is just a networking company, but Cisco has a wide variety of different security solutions that can meet your end-to-end goals, right? So do explore into the different solutions and the different offerings. It is a journey, and please do SASSY your way. Start from a small deployment, start from a small trial, and expand out to the full zero trust framework for your entire workforce. So before I move into the demo, I'd like to say this, right? Duo definitely offers a trial, right? If you're interested in what I mentioned, the VPN-less access, your endpoint health checks, sign up for a 30-day trial at the Duo website. And from there, you can actually do very fast integrations, do testing, and that might be your stepping step towards your zero trust framework, towards your whole SASSY journey. So I'll move on to a quick little demo of all the solutions that I mentioned earlier today. So what you see here on screen is actually the Duo admin panel, right? Over here, I've actually integrated Duo together with Amazon Web Services. So I'm going to show you what happens for an end user on a daily basis. So this screen that you see here is called Duo Central. All the apps that's published to me are on this web page, and I would have to only perform a single click access before I gain access into my application. I will also show you what happens on my mobile phone over here. So I have an iOS device. I have registered myself for Duo MFA. So I'm just going to click on this link over here. And from here, I will be able to perform a single sign-on into the AWS Web Console. So what you will see on screen is I'll be receiving a prompt saying that I have to perform multi-factor authentication, and I'll receive a push notification on my mobile phone. So on my mobile phone, you see that I have the time, the location that I'm in, and that username password. I'd like to call your attention to my mobile phone. I will have to perform a Face ID scan. Face ID happens, and that is biometrics. So that's how we actually ensure additional security for the users. And after they have performed that biometrics authentication, they will be able to gain access into the application. So AWS, because I'm the master admin, there are a lot of things that I can change that can disrupt business. I need to perform multi-factor authentication based on biometrics. So that's a technical control that we want to put in place. But we can also put additional interesting security policies around this. What do I mean by that? So in our Duo admin panel, we can configure access policies for our end users. So I'm just going to go into the AWS policy that I configured here. And I'm going to say, because the business does not extend out of a specific country, so I do not want users of other countries connecting into my network infrastructure, into my application. So I'm going to deny access in my connecting in from Singapore. So I'm based in Singapore. If I'm connecting from Singapore, I want to block that specific access. So again, let's go back to our Duo Central page where we have our Amazon Web Services link. I'm going to click on that. So this time when I'm connecting into that application, you will see that I am getting blocked. So this is based on geolocation. So Duo can understand where the users are connecting in from, and that actually helps us reduce the attack surface area. If your business does not extend out of Malaysia, someone in China tries to connect in, we block access. They are not granted access at all. So similarly, earlier I've mentioned about doing a health check on the endpoint device, right? So whether the endpoint has the specific anti-malware installed on it. So we can actually configure a policy to say blocked access if a security agent is not running. So I'm going to select McAfee over here because I don't have McAfee installed. And if there is a problem, I need you to call Jet to fix it. Okay, so I've created a policy to check if my endpoint has the McAfee agent. If it's not there, we will go ahead and block the users from gaining access. And I will also remove my location policy, and I will save this. So you can see that it is very easy to administer. On the fly, I just have to do a few clicks, and I'm able to actually provide technical controls around these applications. So let's go back to Amazon. I'm going to click on the Amazon link here, and it's going to, again, prompt me for the multi-factor authentication, but this time it's going to actually have a little pop-up. So we actually have a little agent installed on the endpoint that checks if the endpoint has a security agent running. So as you can see on screen, I'm having a bit of trouble. My security agent is not running, and I need to call Jeff to fix my problem here, right? So this is how we can actually ensure that the Zero Trust framework is implemented on an ongoing basis. You can do step up or step down depending on your applications. So that is how we can actually very seamlessly integrate our applications into the entire framework for Zero Trust and towards moving towards a SASSY framework as well, right? So with that, I would also like to show you something else that's actually very interesting in our Duo admin panel. So over here, I'm going to go into this screen called our Trust Monitor. So Trust Monitor is our user behavior analytics built into the cloud. So you saw that we get a lot of telemetry from our endpoints. What's the IP address? What's the location? Who's the user that's coming in? So basically, we can actually create a risk profile around this system. So this risk profile is actually pretty interesting. So we actually are able to get all the telemetry. We are able to get this users data. And from this users data, we are actually able to create a baseline. So this baseline is based on all the details that the users log into the applications on a daily basis. And the machine learning algorithms are actually proprietary to Duo, right? We have data scientists that created all these algorithms at the back. And it's actually really, really easy to configure this risk profile. What do I mean by that? I can configure this in less than 5 minutes. So the first thing that we actually do is we select the groups of users we want to monitor, right? The applications that we want to monitor. So we actually see that we have ASA VPNs over here. We have Amazon Web Services. All the applications that are protected by Duo, we actually select a bunch of them that we want to monitor. Second step, we would actually go ahead and select the users. So in a large organization, we have the CIO, the CEOs, the HR, the finance. We'll put all of these users under monitor. Step 3, we can define locations and IP. So we know that specific countries have more attackers than others. So if the authentication happens from this country, we want to be alerted more. So this is where we can actually define a high-risk country. We can also define a low-risk IP address if you have sufficient technical controls around it. Finally, we actually look at non-authenticated events. So these are events that are associated with user authentication that's not directly tied together. What do I mean by that? If Jeff forgets his phone for multi-factor authentication, he can call help desk. Help desk gives him a 6-digit PIN that he can use to authenticate at that point in time. That is a person-to-person kind of event, and we can actually flag that up for user behavior analytics as well. So finally, we put it all together, we apply the policy. So after about 3 weeks, we would be able to get user behaviors, the telemetry, we put it into machine learning techniques, we learn what is normal, we learn what is abnormal, and we can actually flag this up to the IT admin. So as you can see on screen here, Rachel is normally working from the US. Today, she's working from HR, which is probably Hungary. The location is actually restricted. And it's also a new device IP address that we've not seen before. And we also see that it's a new application. So she's accessing box, which she has not done in the last 1 month or so. So all these actually flag up to the IT admin, and the IT admin can actually take this to the next step of doing investigations. We are working towards risk-based authentication. So that would be the next iteration, meaning if Rachel is performing such a behavior, we would ask Rachel to perform a second level of authentication, multi-factor authentication to a different app in order to verify that she is who she says she is, and it's not because a bad actor has gotten her credentials, right? So with that, I would like to end my presentation today, and I really hope that you have gained something insightful from everything that I have shared.
Thank you, Jeff. Thanks for the very insightful session. I think we have lots of questions from the floor. To the audiences, we'll try to answer all of them. We'll try. Okay, so let's go for the first one. So as you were presenting, so how can we connect work from home employees with speed and security across infrastructure clouds, security clouds, and analytic clouds?
So there are many different cloud platforms that we can actually do identity federation. The most important thing is to have a single identity repository. We can use Duo to actually federate all these different identity into a single source, into a single pane of glass where the users can do a one-click access. From the networking perspective, you can actually use things like our Vitella or SD-WAN to actually do direct connectivity from your branch site, from your HQ to all these cloud services. So that will actually help you converge. And finally, we can layer on additional security controls such as Umbrella for DNS security, role-based access control, cloud-based firewalls. And that CASB feature where we actually prevent data loss prevention, all of that is built into our SASSY solution. So that would be a comprehensive solution that's available to you.
With that, then how do we protect work from home users from threats such as phishing and malware?
So to address phishing, user education is definitely number one, because it's user that is going to click on that link, and IT has no control over what users click, right? But the important thing is, here's this: multi-factor authentication protects your user identity even if they leak their passwords. Number two, you have browser-based isolation. So when the users click on malicious links, we can actually detonate that in a sandbox location. So that will also help to keep users safe. You don't have controls on what users click on, but you can keep them secure.
All right, so user education. So that's point number one.
User education is definitely number one.
Okay, so how can remote access clients be brought seamlessly into the network?
Okay, so we actually see traditional VPN clients deployed everywhere, right? So that VPN gateway might be deployed in your data center, but as we actually look at the evolution of networking, a lot of architecture is actually being moved to a cloud. So you can actually look at Umbrella. We are actually providing this cloud tunneling directly from Umbrella into your data center, which means that it's actually going to be very, very scalable. So the problem with a isolated VPN deployment is, what if you have a huge increase of users, or if your VPN solution is old and you're not patching it. So this cloud delivered VPN solution will be something that you should look into for scalability, for security, and we can layer on additional cloud security to this cloud delivered VPN solution.
Okay, so when users report performance issues, how do we know if it's related to their devices or their Wi-Fi or our enterprise network?
That's a very, very good question. The operator's number one headache. Users call and complain and say, my internet is slow, my VPN is not working. So visibility is most important. Inbuilt within a lot of our SD-WAN solutions like Viptela, like Meraki, we do have intelligence where we can actually preemptively detect if it's a DNS issue, if it's a DHCP issue, and that would proactively notify your IT admin. However, we also have a separate solution called Thousand Eyes. So this is a newly acquired company by Cisco that gives you observability at the application level, at the network level. It tells you specific telemetries so that the next time your boss say, hey, you are not doing your job, you can say, I found the problem in less than a few seconds, right? So Thousand Eyes is something that you should look into.
Thank you very much. So with the speed of malware, viruses, does the DNS layer security manage to pick up and include in the directory fast enough?
So you are right? Security malware evolves really, really quickly at the speed of how security can be applied. The challenge here is keeping up with it. So we are actually taking telemetry from third-party threat feeds. And if you are aware, we in Cisco have some business unit called Talos. So Talos is actually a specific malware research unit, and that is actually provided as a free service to all our Cisco clients. So this group of researchers are actually providing malware threat feeds to our security solutions so that we can always be on par, if not ahead of the curve in terms of dealing with malware. So that is something that you can be confident about when you actually buy a Cisco security solution.
Will Umbrella service and antivirus with internet security doing the same thing? So are these redundant and adding more weight to network and computing performance?
So you have to look at it from two perspectives. You have something that are on-prem and you have infrastructure that's in the cloud, right? So if your connectivity and your data is all residing in the cloud, then it's definitely important to have anti-malware scanning capabilities, firewall capabilities built into the cloud. They are scalable, they are updated, and we actually have things like AI, ML built into such technologies. On-prem, I'm not saying that it's not important to have anti-malware. It's still important because there will be opportunities of isolated devices connecting into different services, different servers. So both of it, I would say, is important, but you have to pinpoint and isolate where your critical data is and look at the best layered defense for that data.
Okay, so we're going for the last question. So how can I secure my company data amidst a distributed workforce?
And Chip, that is a very common question from a lot of our customers, right? We have data distributed, everyone's dialing into that same location. How do we know whether they are actually who they say they are, whether it's secure or not, whether people are copying out sensitive data and putting it on their own Dropbox? So a few things, right? You have to have defense in depth. First of all, users have to verify themselves. So traditional security architecture, static. As long as I have my username, my password, you trust me, regardless of whether I'm sitting in office or I'm sitting at Starbucks. So that has to change. Regardless of where I am, whether I'm connected to the Wi-Fi at the office, whether I'm connecting to Starbucks, whether I'm in VPN, there should always be a challenge of who I am so that you verify and you know who the user is. Device visibility. You need to know what kind of devices are connecting in. Is it complying with our policies? Is it updated with the newest anti-malware agents? The virus definitions are up to date. The OS are patched. Browsers are patched. You get security and assurance on the device. Third thing, when we are actually looking at the actual data, how do we actually protect it? Data loss prevention. We need to have the capability to know what exactly is defined as sensitive critical data. We need to know where it's residing in. We need to have proper asset management. And we actually need to have the capability to block whenever users are copying this sensitive data to a personal Google Drive, or if it's copying it onto their endpoint devices. Data loss prevention is definitely something you have to apply.
All right, thank you very much, Jeff. I'm sorry to all, as we won't be able to actually go through all of the questions, but thank you very much for all the questions. With that, I'll pass back on to our organizer, The Star. Over to you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jeff, for that wonderful presentation and for your great sharing on SASSY. And thanks, Wooni, as well, for moderating the Q&A with Jeff. Our sincere apologies if we couldn't get through all the questions, but we are very grateful for all your questions and comments. And we're definitely humbled and honored with everyone's participation at this webinar. Before we end, I have one final request, and that is to share your thoughts with us about the webinar by completing a short survey. You may scan the QR code as shown on the screen to complete the survey, or go to bit.ly/Cisco20Gen survey. Your feedback is important for us to keep providing you with a better event experience. As promised, once you have completed the survey, you will be in the running to win 1,000 ringgit worth of H2O Humidifiers and GrabFood vouchers. You will receive a winner's email if your survey completion has been selected as one of the prize draw winners. And if you would like to arrange for a follow-up session with a Cisco representative to discuss any of your organizational challenges or business concerns, you may indicate it in the survey too. Ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of Star Media Group, thank you once again for your participation and for staying with us till the end of the session. We would also like to thank Cisco for partnering with us to make this webinar a success. We look forward to hosting you once again at the next Star Media Group's event. Till then, take care and stay safe. Cheers.
All I want
just be